Hello, it's not Steven here, and today got a very different video to what I normally do. I'm going to do a deck breakdown slash preview of Buggy in the OP11 format. Got a lot of support in OP9 the set was released, and way more support with the starter deck that's going to come out, and it will be legal for the OP11 format. So without further delay, let's get into it. This is a deck list I have been working on with one of my friends as well, Dat Halfbreed. Made a couple of changes to that list as well, that one that we had in the podcast. I will drop the link down below if you're interested in that. However, a quick breakdown of the deck list. We have 4 Mr. 3. It's a top 4 searcher for a cross guild or Baroque works. 4 of the 2k Cabaji from the new starter deck. 2k, 4 drop, 1k. If you have 2 or more characters that cost of 5 or more, it gains blocker and +1 cost. Very crucially, on opponent's turn, it gains 5,000 power. Very nice addition to the deck. I am going to try 2 of the 4 drop Buggy. It is a 4 drop, 1k power, 1k counter. Active main, you may trash 1 card from your hand and this character. If your leader's Buggy, play up to 1 cross guild type character of 6 or less from your hand. I think this is a fine 4 Don turn. I don't think you pop it on 4 Don. I think you wait for it to combo later on in the game with the 10 cost Buggy. You set up for a turn where you want to drop that Buggy. You don't do it straight away for Mihawk, which is the best target for this effect. But we can get into that a little bit later on. I think it's still fine on 4 Don, just kind of set something up for your later turns. But next up we've got 4 of the 4 cost Mohji. 2k counter, 1k power. If you have 2 or more characters, base cost of 5, gains blocker and +1 cost. Very crucial though, again, on KO, if your leader is Buggy and you have 3 or less cards, draw a card. Probably the least effective card to play on 4 Don out of your 4 Don options. With that on KO effect being quite difficult to get off in the early game to actually draw a card. However, late game it can be really nice, and it does count as a 5 drop if you have 2 or more 5 cost or higher cards on the field, so it can still be used to combo with the 10 drop Buggy, which is really nice. 2 of the 4 cost Charlotte Pudding. Your opponent reshuffles their hand and draws 5. Can be very effective against Grape, can be very effective against some Snake Man Luffy decks. That is a card, it's very much a flex slot, because we don't know how effective it'll be in the current meta. So I'm very open to adding more in, to adding less in. We shall see with that card. But the star of the deck, in my opinion, is this 4 drop Alvida. Not so much the star, but definitely the most important one from the starter deck. Again, in my opinion, it's 4 cost, 5k power, 1k counter. If you have 2 more characters, the base cost of 5 more gains +1 cost. However, on play, if your leader is Buggy, draw 3, trash 2. That is a crazy OP effect. I will definitely talk about that card later on in the video. But next up we've got 4 of the 5 cost 5k 2k counter Cabaji. If you have a Buggy or Mohji character, this character cannot be KO'd in battle. More there for the 2k than anything else, but it's cross guild, searchable, playable. It's a 5 cost character you can get off with your Buggy. 4 of the Mr. 1 Daz.Bonez from EB01. We don't care about the first line of text, however the on play of draw 2 trash 1 is super relevant and it's extremely nice, and it's Baroque works, which combos with 1 card later on. We have 2 of the 5 cost 6k Alvida, has 1k counter, and on KO if your leader has a cross guild, you can play up to 1 character at the cost of 5 or less other than Alvida from your hand. Can combo quite nicely with some other cards. It is a bit of a flex slot card, but I'll see how it feels in the current meta, and we can kind of take it from there. It could be really good, because it should be effective against Godthread. You know, they Godthread it, you just play out another character and you're absolutely good to go. Or it might be very useless and it just never really gets its effect off, and we could look to put a different card in there over it. However, 4 of the 6 cost 7k blocker Dracule Mihawk. Again, another one on play, draw 2, trash 1. Crazy good card in this deck. I think this will always be a 4 of. Croc, 7 cost 7k Croc, 1k counter, very important. But on play, play up to 1 cross guild character or Baroque works character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Super important to combo with the Mr. 1 Daz.Bonez. And it combos with your Alvida, your 4 cost, your 5 cost Alvida, your 4 cost Cabbages, you know, your Mohji, your Buggy, all the good stuff. It's more of a backstep to the Croc and Mihawk that we'll get into in the video, but still very important card, and it's got 1k counter. You know, it's not to be underestimated, especially when comboed with Mr. One. We have 4 of the promo Buggy. This could be a 3 of, it could even be a 2 of, because we have so much cycle in the deck already. It's going to be interesting to see how this actually plays out. If aggro's everywhere, I think it's automatically a 4 of. If it's not, I think this could get cut down to maybe a 2 or 3 of. We shall see. However, the Buggy, 7 cost 8k. This character cannot attack. If your leader is Buggy, all 3 and 4 cost characters cannot attack. On play, play 1 6 cost or lower cross skill character from your hand. Again, best target for that's going to be a Dracule Mihawk. However, a plain Alvida, a draw 3 trash 2 is still going to be pretty darn good, pretty darn useful. Only one that won't be able to target that you really want to play off it will be the Mr. One. But next, absolutely by no means not least, is the 8 cost 7k Crocodile and Mihawk card. Definitely a 4 of. On play, draw 2 trash 1, then play up to 1 cross skill type character with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. Super important is the once per turn, if your cross skill type character will be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you can instead trash 1 card from your hand. Crazy strong card, especially when comboed with Alvida, where you can end up basically drawing 5, trashing 3. Pretty darn strong. And finally, we have the 10 cost 12k Luffy. On play, place up to one of your opponent's characters at the bottom of the deck. If you do not have 5 characters cost of 5 or more, place this at the bottom of the owner's deck. We have our leader effect of active main. You may rest 5 Dawn and trash 1 card from your hand. Play up to 1 cross skill type character from your hand. So even though this does say 10 Dawn, if the board is in the correct board state, you can active main, rest 5 Dawn and trash a card to play this out. So it's not actually a 10 Dawn card a lot of the time in this deck. So it's extremely powerful effect. And it will always bottom deck something as long as you play the card out. It will only stay on the field if you have those 4 additional characters which cost 5 or higher. We'll go through some key cards for the deck. I mentioned some of them in the kind of deck breakdown, but first up is the Crocodile and Mihawk. This card is exactly what Buggy wanted. It was already a pretty good deck in certain scenarios against certain decks because of the promo. On release, Buggy was not viable really at all, and it's got a little bit of support with that promo card. This card really takes it over the edge. The fact that you can, on 5 Dawn, use your leader effect, get this out, and then a 4-drop from your hand is super duper important. And the once per turn of being able to, you know, cheat death on one of your characters, including itself, by the way. It's not other, it is including itself. You can just ditch a card and it will not go from the field. I wouldn't save it from KO, by the way, if it was in battle, but it will save it from any KO or trash effect or bottom deck effect that your opponent is trying to do, or put to life because it is a cost, of course. Absolutely super important. Combos insanely well with the 4-cost Alvida. You can hit your other 4-cost characters as well, don't get me wrong, but with that it is kind of game winning. We do have the kind of, I would say, worst version of it, however still super duper good. This could be a 3 of, again depending on how the meta ends up shaping up. I think it's definitely a 4 of at the moment though. That's what I'll be starting testing with. The 7 cost 7k Croc, it is a little bit less versatile than the 8 cost. Again, the cost doesn't really matter. If anything, you want it to be higher, because when you're cheating these cards out, you're probably using the leader effect to do so. And a 7 cost card is easier to remove than an 8 cost card. So by default, this one should just be better. It's just the fact that this can play a 5 cost character alongside it, and it includes that Mr. One because it is Baroque Works type. So it's still very important as is. This could be cut because it does take a lot of resources from hand. It doesn't replace itself, you know, something like the Croc and Mihawk does with the draw 2 trash 1 effect on play. However, it's still very important to what the Buggy deck wants to do. Get that engine rolling. And it's got 1k counter, so it's never really going to feel like a bad card in your hand. We do have the promo Buggy here. I've included this in the key cards for the deck. One, because it cheats out a 6 cost or lower, so it's counting as 2 bodies towards that big 10 drop Luffy that you want to play. This card not being able to attack is definitely a downfall of it. However, a 7 cost 8k character is pretty difficult to remove in the current meta, and being able to stop all 3 and 4 cost characters from attacking is super important if Bella Betty is going to be everywhere, because this deck really shuts it down if it can get this promo on the field. Super good against, Red Zoro as well. The starter deck Red Luffy plays a lot of 3, a lot of 4 cost characters as well. This is just kind of your anti-aggro card. You get this on the field, you essentially win the game. Like, unironically, that is how powerful this card can be. It will just be very, very, very meta dependent on how many is ran. I think it's anywhere between 2 and 4. I'm definitely going to start with 4, and then I can maybe drop it with that, with how the meta kind of reacts to the Buggy deck, and if the Buggy deck feels that powerful. Because this could be a bit of a dead card against Snake Man Luffy, but we'll kind of wait and see. It only would really stop the Daz.Bonez, Mr. 2. It would only really stop the Mr. 2 from being able to swing, which is a 4 cost character, of course. Or maybe it's the Zoroshiro if they are on go second curve. So it can still find its place in that game, but you run so much hand cycle that I could definitely see a version of this deck doing really well with 2 or 3 of these in hand. The very nice thing about this is, though, it is included in the starter deck, which is quite rare for a promo card to be included in a starter deck, so it's super duper nice that it is in there, because it is a very, very important card. Last but not least, essentially the deck is built around this card. The fact that in emergencies, it can just be, use your leader effect, active main, tap 5 Don, trash a card, play this out and just red rock something. Yes, you're going -2 cards in hand to just bottom deck something, but that is still fine. Like, that is still a pretty good play for a lot of decks, being able to tap 5 Don, trash 2 cards, and then just bottom deck whatever you want is still very, very powerful. And if this ever gets to stick around, it should be game winning, which is why this deck should work now. It's where the power comes from. The ability to close out games, because you're going to have this 12k swing very early on. In comparison to other decks, because you are removing something and playing a 12k body, is absolutely incredible. And if you think about how the game would have to be going for you to get this off, you should already be winning the game / winning the board state. This can really tip it in your favor and just looks so effective at closing games out, especially with how the current meta is with Gum Gum Giant being everywhere. Swinging the 12k is absolutely giant. It's such an exciting and fun card to get off that the archetype should work because of how good it is. The overall strategy of the deck, as I've kind of alluded to, is around this 10-drop Buggy. Your early game is all around setting this board state up so that you're able to get this Buggy out. Normally going to be on your 7, 8, or 9 Dawn turn. If the game goes the way you want it to be going, you've got your 1-drop Mr. 3 Galdino, just to try and find all your pieces that you want. You've got your Mohji, I've included it in there because it does have on KO. Let's say if the board state hasn't quite gone the way you want it to go, and maybe you are running a little bit lower on hand size, being able to get this out, and then if they do remove it, being able to draw a card can be very, very effective. They will need to deal with it in case you have another 10-cost Buggy in hand. The Mohji being able to count towards it is super important. And then again, on KO, if your leader is Buggy and you have 3 less cards and draw a card. The real stars of the deck, though, in my opinion, to get this engine working, it's the 4-cost Alvida. The fact it can contribute towards the 10-cost Buggy staying on the field is fantastic. Like, that alone is pretty good, especially when you want to be going first, but this on 4 Dawn is crazy. Just the fact that there's no restriction to it other than your leader as Buggy, to draw 3 trash 2 is absolutely crazy. There's a super duper strong effect. The card I've kind of compared it to a little bit was the 5-cost yellow Shirahoshi, where it is 0k power, 5 Dawn, draw 3 trash 2. It does have the trigger of play this card, which is obviously very relevant. However, this just being able to drop on 4, draw 3 trash 2, set up your next few turns is crazy, and then it also contributes towards Buggy, and it's also a 5k body. just seems so game breaking to me. Like this card just does absolutely everything you want it to do. Combo it with the card below it of 8 cost 7k Mihawk. Your 5 Don turn can be develop an 8 cost 7k, a 5 cost 5k in certain circumstances. Draw 5, trash 3, and you have a cheat death effect on the Croc and Mihawk, where you can just ditch a card to save something being removed from field by effect. That's just that just has to be good. It seems so strong. The Croc and Mihawk seems incredibly awkward to get rid of for literally every deck in the game. This is going to stick around for 1 or 2 turns. You will be able to get your 7k swing in. It seems just phenomenal. Like it really blows my mind how much stronger this deck is simply because this card exists and the Alvida to really cycle through your cards. You're going to get these combos going. You're going to be able to do everything the deck wants to do because you should be so consistent in how this deck plays, in how this deck feels. To go alongside the consistency as well, you've got another draw 2 trash 1 in Mr. 1 Daz.Bonez. You've got another draw 2 trash 1 with your 6 cost Mihawk. The Mihawk is very, very, very important, obviously, because you can play it alongside the 6 drop 7k promo Buggy. And again, you got the draw 2 trash 1 to try and replace your hand a little bit. 7k blocker is always extremely nice, because if they just swing 6k, you just block 7, done. And if you ever have the Croc and Mihawk on the field before you play the 6 cost Mihawk, then it just becomes even more difficult to remove, even more difficult to get your board state down where you're not threatening the 10 cost Buggy. So the overall strategy is draw cards, set up your next few turns, play out big stuff, and then kill them with the Buggy and just your giant board. And because the deck plays so many 2Ks, I think it's on 12 2Ks at the moment. It's like kind of the first draft. I think it'd be very difficult to kill at a 5 life leader. Whether you want to play a few more blockers in the deck, I don't know. Again, it's pretty versatile, but I'll get through that later in the video as well. Going first, as an example of what we can do, is 1 Don, play out the Mr. 3, get your searcher for ideally one of the 4 cards on the right hand side, which will prioritize the matchup. You know, if it's Belle or Betty or, you know, Blue Dofi, you're going to be wanting to grab the Buggy. If it's more of a control matchup or maybe Snake Man Luffy, you're probably going to want to grab the Croc and Mihawk. Your 3 Don turn, we don't have a 3 Don card in this version of the deck, but swinging 8k with leader or swinging 5 twice with Mr. 3 and your leader is also very, very good, because even if it's the 8k leader swing, that's basically guaranteed to get a life, which is so important because we are a deck that's going to be swinging big numbers late game, and you want to get their life down. We're not like a full control blue deck where we care about how many cards are in their hand more than what's in their life. We do want to take life. We do want to be quite aggressive when we're playing this deck, especially when we're going first, because your 5 Don turn is use your leader effect, and then ideally play one of the combos on the right hand side, either Crocodile and Mihawk into Alvida, or 7 cost Buggy into Dracule Mihawk. If you get the Croc and Mihawk effect off into Alvida, you should be able to set up your turns for the next 2 or 3 goes. You should be able to really fix your hand because you're drawing 5, trashing 3. Like, that's just incredible. And then you're going to have 2 big bodies on the field that are quite awkward to get rid of. Then maybe able to get rid of Alvida because it's only their 6 Don turn, remember. If you do this on your 5 Don turn, their 6 Don turn, they will not be able to interact with the Mihawk, and they would have to kill the Alvida twice. Bear that in mind, because you can use the once per turn, ditch a card and save Alvida. Like, if they play Zeus, the 2 cost Zeus from the new set to try and kill Alvida, just ditch a card. They've lost a life. Like, it's so crazy if you're able to get this off. But that's like the ideal scenario. Going second, fairly similar. Your 2 Don turn is in an ideal world. It's going to be Mr. 3, otherwise you're going to have to pass. Your 4 Don turn, I've put them in essentially order. I think Buggy should be above the Mohji, but you want to be playing just your Alvida on 4 Don. You want to be playing your Cabaji on 4 Don, your Mohji, or push comes to shove the Buggy. I don't think you proc the Buggy on 4 Don, even if you're able to play the 6 drop Mihawk off it. You keep it around there for the turn where you want to drop the 10 drop Buggy. That is a late game play that you're setting up on your 4 Don turn. I don't think you instantly proc it. even in the best case scenario where you have the Mihawk, unless you are super confident in your 6-Don turn of being able to combo into one of these 2 combo bits, where you can really kind of put the pressure on, and maybe you want the 7k swing for the turn after. Because that Buggy is essentially, you play 1 card from hand with the Buggy itself, then you active main, you trash the Buggy and trash 1 card, so you neg 2 cards from hand, and then you play a card, so you neg 3 cards from hand, and even if it is Dracule Mihawk, you draw 2, trash 1, so you really neg 2 cards from hand just to get a 6-Don card on 4 Don. Like, that's not good. That's not worth it. It is a setup turn for your 10 cost Buggy. It's not a kind of tempo out Dracule Mihawk for 4 Don. Unless you are very, very confident in what you're going to do over the next few turns, and you just think the board state really needs it. Because if they spend resources killing your 4 Don Buggy, I don't think you're upset. Like, it's fine. It still puts a body on the field. It's still kind of threatening for the late game. But in an ideal world, you're just going to drop Alvida on 4. Draw 3, trash 2, set up your next few turns. Then your 6-Don turn is leader ability again into whichever combo kind of suits the game state the best. Of either Mihawk and Alvida, Buggy into Mihawk, or maybe it's a 7-drop Croc into Mr. One. It's whatever you've got in hand, whatever's the best. Some kind of different tech options for the deck though. We do have the 4-cost Sabo. This is more for something to just play on 4 Don. The fact that it can kind of stop one of your 7-cost or lower characters being removed from field can be quite good. It was ran in a lot of Buggy decks previously, but we have the 8-drop Dracule Mihawk and Croc now, so I don't know if this is needed. If it's a very, very removal heavy meta, I can see this making its way back into the deck. It is a 2k as well, which is extremely, extremely nice. So it's never going to be a bad card in this deck. It's definitely something to bear in mind. The 3-Don Sages Pilaf is basically probably the best card you can ever play on 3 Don in the deck. Draw 2 cards is super nice because we want a bunch of cards, want a bunch of resources. Because we are playing Buggy, we do use our cards quite aggressively. Just to kind of get off our leader effect and get off our 10-drop effect. The trigger is also incredibly insane. But I think the way that the deck works right now, we should have enough cycle where we don't actually need to play this on 3 Don. We don't want to risk it having a brick in the late game, but it's definitely something to bear in mind. If the deck just doesn't quite feel right, I think it could definitely make a comeback. The other combo that you could look to put in is Mohji and Richie. The Mohji is a 5-cost 5k 2k counter, so it's a 5-cost character which we love and it's cross-guild. And it's on players, look at the top 5, reveal 1 Richie at a TO hand, then place the rest at the bottom of the deck and play up to 1 Richie from your hand. And the Richie is the 2-cost 2k 1k counter blocker, which again is cross-guild, so it's quite nice. If the meta becomes super duper aggressive, this is probably something to look to put back in. The Mohji being a 2k is very, very handy, and being able to put a little blocker off is really, really effective right now because the Snake Man is hitting big numbers and the little blockers are very, very effective. The current version isn't actually running any events, but we are a blue deck, so we do have options. I think I prefer Red Hawk over Raging Tiger because we have 4 Don options now with our starter deck cards in terms of we can drop Alvida or Mohji or Cabaji or Buggy and then still play Red Hawk to bottom deck something. We're still developing the board a little bit, we're still progressing the game in our favour. And the Graveblade plays 2 characters of 6 cost less at the bottom of the owner's deck is very, very, very good at removal, at controlling the board. However, I think the idea behind this deck is more, we will have a bigger and better board than you because we will develop it quicker. We shouldn't need removal, but if the meta is kind of falling that way, and also it's very good in the mirror match is Graveblade. So it could be interesting, however you can't really play anything alongside it right now. So it would just be Graveblade and Leader Swing, and then it's kind of calling it a day. If it needs to go into that kind of direction, I think I'd prefer having, the Richies alongside it, or maybe it's even like the 1-drop blocker Trafalgar Law. I think that could rear its head in this deck. I think it will be fine. Right now, I don't think you need it, but I'm interested to see what this deck kind of loses to and what we can kind of tech in to try and fight that and make those losing matchups a little bit better. But moving on, we have the stage, the 1-cost Empty Bluffs Island. Active main, you may place 2 cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck in any order. Rest the stage. If your leader is Crocodile type, draw 2 cards. Really, really effective at setting up what you want to do. Because we are a combo deck, don't forget, we want to have the right options in hand. If you are running this, I think I would run the 4-drop Cavendish. This is very much kind of my kind of spicy card for this list. I will be testing it out. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to make the cut, but it's probably a really good card just to drop on 4. Even if the opponent removes it, it takes away a bunch of resources, and it maybe stunts their turn a little bit. It's not the easiest card to get rid of for what is in the kind of current meta. If you drop this on 4, it makes their 5-don turn a little bit worse, and then hopefully your 6-don turn you can really pop off with leader effect. But if this does stick around, the fact that you can draw 2, trash 1 is so nice. And it's when attacking. The fact it's obviously only a 4k makes it a little bit worse. It also doesn't have any counter. So if I was thinking about even running multiple copies of this, it would more than likely be in a stage build where you can recycle it and get closer to the combo pieces you may need in some matchups. The reason I've included it though is because the Cavendish and the Sabo are just maybe better options on 4-don, meta dependent, than what we currently have. They could easily take the spot of the 4-cost Buggy or the 4-cost Mohji, because those are probably the weakest cards in the deck that we could play on 4-don. Like, I think Cavendish is a pretty strong 4-don turn. So it'll be interesting to see if that card does fit in the deck. But moving on, some matchups that we're going to have to kind of look out for, and we will need to maybe adjust the deck to try and beat a little bit more, is Snake Man Luffy. It's the blue-purple Luffy from OP11. Very, very powerful deck, especially when it gets to late game. There's not a great way of testing at the moment for Buggy versus Snake Man because the starter deck stuff is not out on the sim. It'll be an interesting matchup. If this is one that starts to lose, I think Cavendish could help the matchup quite a bit. I also think that maybe Red Rock could help it a little bit. But obviously the Snake Man just gets so much value from our leader effect early game. You have to swarm the board. You have to get these big stuff out first. I'm in mind the Croc Mihawk into Alvida play should almost be game winning if you're able to go first. The pressure I think that puts on the board is kind of crazy, and hopefully you can get your Buggy off to bottom deck their Sanji or the 9-Mom or the Katakuri, and you can kind of just build the board better than they can, which is kind of crazy to say that a deck may be able to compete with it, but we'll wait and see. That will require a lot of testing. The Grape Luffy is kind of the same, but total opposite in terms of it's still extremely powerful deck. It wants to be very aggressive on the board. It wants to play these Sanjin Puddings out, play the 6-cost Rush Luffy that hits you twice in the same turn. Being that 6k leader on a bunch of turns as well. Not super relevant for Buggy because, again, we are playing pretty large stuff early game. This could be a matchup where maybe his Grav Blade is needed, or maybe it's even like something like 3000 Worlds if we're looking for just something to play on 4-don to bottom deck, you know, whatever they're trying to get out in their early game if they happen to go second, or wait and see. I want to see how this deck does in the current matchup. Then we can kind of basically take it from there. We do run a lot of 2Ks, run a lot of defensive tools. The Pudding should be very effective against this deck as well. But if this does become an issue, I think we'll probably go up to 3 or 4 copies of Pudding. But we'll wait and see how it feels. Bello Betty, I've included this because it's getting more and more traction because of how fantastic it is into these 2 Luffy leaders. In particular, it's got a pretty good matchup spread all over, to be honest with you. Even its Lucci matchups hovering around 45% win rate. Like, Bello Betty is definitely coming, guys. Like, in this meta, in OP11, you will be seeing a lot of Bello Betty players either picking up the deck for the first time or returning to it. It's not super complicated. you can just kind of, you honestly can kind of pick up and play it a little bit. When we get to the kind of really, really high end players and the really, really high end players, they can obviously get a lot more out of the deck. It's not like super, I'm not saying brain dead, but it's not like kind of the Shanks Ornell of the past where it's just, I will play a big dude and it'll be really hard for you to get more value than my big dude. Bella Betty definitely requires a lot more thinking than that. So it will be very, very interesting, but I think with the promo Buggy, you should just be able to shut that deck down straight away. I think you should have a phenomenal day. I think you should have a phenomenal time against Bella Betty because the only cards that can really swing is going to be the 6-drop Koala, the 5-drop of Vankov, and then maybe the Dragon if they put this back in because of Buggy. You never know. You never know. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Some final thoughts on the Buggy deck then. I think it's a pretty versatile deck. It's got it's got probably, 8 to 10 slots that you can shift depending on what's going to happen in the meta, what you need to adjust for. Be interesting to see what the deck actually loses to, and if there are cards that can try and combat that, try and help you in those losing matchups. Because at the core of it, if you're going first and you're getting your leader effect off into those really strong combos, this should be a very, very powerful deck. And I will be testing it once the starter decks are available on the sim. I might even post some real life content from it. So don't forget to check that out on twitch.tv/itsnotsteven0. I'll post a follow-up video to this as well with some actual Buggy gameplay. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this kind of content. Haven't really done a kind of like slideshow video on a deck before it came out. So let me know how it kind of feels in the comments below. If you did enjoy it, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. But I'll put the kind of starting deck list in the comments below as well, and a link to the podcast where we could kind of discuss this deck a little bit more with my two friends, Cabaji and Dad Halfbreed. And that's it. Peace.